Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest, Lama Palden. And she's here today to share with us her new book, Love on Every Breath, Tonglen Meditation for Transforming Pain into Joy. Now, Lama Palden is a licensed psychotherapist, spiritual teacher, and coach. She studied Buddhism in the Himalayas with some of the most prominent Tibetan masters of the 20th century. Following a traditional 3-year retreat, she became one of the first Western lamas. Since then, she's developed her own Tibetan Buddhist teaching center in Fairfax, California. So let's welcome to the show, Lama Palden.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book. I absolutely loved it. It's such a great book.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Well, and I have to ask you, what was the inspiration behind writing this book?
Well, it was really our current humanities situation, or our humanities current situation right now, in that, there's so much divisiveness and hatred and sowing of more hatred. And so I really felt like, to put out something about really, and a meditation practice for increasing our love for ourselves and for others. And also to give people who really care deeply about humanity and the earth and the animals and what's happening, to give them a way to process the suffering that people feel that is already kind of been absorbed and is just stuck inside our systems. So there's that piece too, to help process that, transform it, and send it back as healing, awakening love energy instead of that just sitting inside of us. And then also for activists, to give them a way to process and clear emotions and feelings and to come to a place of much greater strength and empowerment and love in their hearts.
Well, and so I know your book, the subtitle is Tonglen Meditation for Transforming Pain into Joy. What is Tonglen meditation?
Yeah, good question. So that's a Tibetan word meaning taking and sending. And so the whole idea of Tonglen is twofold, that we're taking in, as I mentioned, suffering unconsciously, caring people are all the time about our world, especially it's so much more now that we're exposed to through modern media, and to transform and liberate that into love and compassion, into joy in the heart, and send it back out into the world, or consciously to take in the suffering and through the steps in the book of the meditation to actualize in our heart, to actually be able to imagine and feel and actualize a sense of our awakened consciousness or our pure being, however we want to language that anchoring that in our heart helps then transform when we're consciously taking in suffering and want to transform it for ourselves or for others. So that's the taking and sending. And we start with ourselves, with really developing loving kindness and compassion for ourselves, and then moving on to transforming not only our own suffering, but suffering of people close to us that we love, and then out into the greater world.
So you talk about transformation of suffering. Where does this suffering end up going?
Well, when we unconsciously absorb it, it just goes into our systems and sort of, hangs out there somewhere. Of course, it's not a physical thing, but when we consciously breathe it in and transform it and breathe it out as love, we bring it into the heart chakra to be transformed. The heart chakra is an amazing organ, or subtle body organ of our human condition that can really help us awaken to our own innate divine pure being and help us through that connection, through that reality, transform the suffering into love, into joy.
Mm. I love how in your book you talk about just that love on every breath is an ancient Tibetan Buddhist meditation. And I think that's just so beautiful.
Yeah, and it in the oral tradition, it comes from an enlightened a woman that was in the 11th century Kashmir. Buddhism used to be all over India, so she became a great Buddhist teacher after she awakened. And her teachings came into Tibet through a Tibetan that studied with her, and then it's been passed down orally for 1,000 years, this practice. And I learned it orally from my guru and my Tibetan guru, and then when I was in 3-year retreat, we practiced it quite extensively and again received that oral transmission. So it feels really good to be able to give this out to many more people at this time, the ancient, wisdom of growing love in our hearts.
Gosh, couldn't we use more of that now? Because it does seem like everyone's kind of, at each other.
Yeah, and I also think there's a lot of feeling of powerlessness and hopelessness. And at least if we can do what we can do to transform inside of ourselves, to transform our own frustration, depression, powerlessness, hopelessness, if we can transform that inside ourselves, it helps us to be more effective in the world and to at least feel empowered internally. And then as we become, as we're more clear, then our actions are more effective and more powerful in the world, our actions to help things change in a good way, in whatever way we're doing that, whether, it's quietly or more publicly.
Mm-hmm. Well, in your book, it talks about how, working this meditative practice, how we develop a greater level of self-love, or at least awareness of self-love and compassion for ourselves. And it kind of all starts with us, doesn't it?
Yes. And this is the hardest part for Americans and pretty much in general for Westerners. It's very hard for us to direct love toward ourselves and to actually start to engage in self-love. So there's a whole chapter on that and suggestions to help people work through the psychological issues that come up. A lot of people feel unworthy of giving their self-love, or just grouchy about themselves and critical, and just find that pattern that many of us have of constantly being self-critical, that's very hard to let go of and turn around into loving kindness. And I liken it, when I teach about this, I liken it to a parent, that we're like kind of the parent, the awareness self is the parent of our regular human self. And it's like a parent and a child. If we're constantly criticizing the child, is that the way they're going to learn and grow and be a happy human being? Or are we going to lovingly parent that child and encourage them? And of course, set limits or whatever, but, train them from an attitude of love. And so we need to bring this same kind of sensibility to ourselves. We can't expect to berate ourselves, criticize ourselves constantly and all this, and then think that we're going to be a happy, effective, content person.
Yeah. And it's really, in your book, outlines this as well. It's about really focusing on the things that will bring happiness to us on our journey, not things like the money, power, prestige, things that are really lasting, that's outside of all.
Yeah. Right. And, all of that is fine and good, but, to have success in the world and that can be important and good. But yeah, just as you said, in Buddhism, and I, wrote about this in the book, that there's a big distinction between what does actually bring us lasting joy, lasting content, and happiness, and versus those things that are constantly going to be changing. And if we place all our security and happiness in those changeable things like our bank account, our job status, our relationships, then we're really knocked for a loop when those things change. And again, it's great to be able to have all those wonderful things and enjoy them and use them. That's great. It's just to realize really where is our true security, our true refuge, our true sanctuary.
Yeah. Well, you talk in your book about the benefits of meditation. I'd love for you to share some of those with our listeners.
Oh, gosh, there's so many. So in terms of a very simple, quiet sitting meditation where you focus on the breath, or, like in the first step of the meditation in the book, I talk about resting in open awareness. And quiet practices like that are extremely good for health. We know that now. And it lowers stress, and it revitalizes us, and makes us feel more peaceful and calm throughout the day. The Love on Every Breath meditation does a number of other things. Over time, it really helps us access our own awakened consciousness, our own basic goodness, which is a translation of the Buddhist term Buddha nature, or our true essential pure being. And so it also helps over time really give us access to that more and more. And it helps us further awaken. And most especially, it really helps us grow our love and compassion. And love and compassion and joy are all innate. Wisdom is innate. But these practices, Love on Every Breath, helps us get in touch with that, and then both uncover the innate wisdom, our innate love, but also, grow it. It's like working out at the gym. So as we engage in the meditation, we become more and more proficient. And not only that, it unlocks these fundamental qualities, and they grow, and our capacity to really be in touch with them grows.
That's so beautiful. And it's nice because it's a practice that people, as you're talking, it can grow, but we can continue to grow upon. And I felt that in reading Love on Every Breath, when I went back through it, there was something else that I picked up on that works for my practice.
Oh, great. And I think there's a lot of different pieces in the meditation and in the book that I think can benefit different people, and also it's reminding me to let your listeners know that there's an on-the-spot version. So there's a full and complete version, and you can do that sitting on the cushion in meditation, for a shorter or longer time. But then there's an on-the-spot where you can take any one of those steps and just in 10, 20, 30 seconds, do it right in the middle of daily life. And it's like a huge reset on our consciousness, and also gives us agency and empowerment to do things in daily life, from a spiritual perspective, and to transform our consciousness, and then hopefully to make a difference in that way as well.
Well,
it can give people a lot of relief. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's really good because, everyone can use a little of that right now.
Right. We're so stressed out, it can de-stress us in the instant, and also, feel like we have something we can do internally to meet the suffering and to help transform it.
Yeah, to bring that. Well, and it's just so interesting when we talk about on the spot meditation. I think a lot of times people are thinking, well, I can't do it that quickly. And it's something that can happen very, very easily in a very short period of time. What kind of instances or examples would be good for that?
So I tell the story in the book about the 3-year-old I taught this to, the Love on Every Breath meditation to, and I gave her an on-the-spot version, and she was very happy because she was a sensitive child, and she was concerned, like she felt really bad every time she saw dead animals that were roadkill, or she saw other children being mean or hurting another child. So she took this on and she just did it fine and came back to me 6 weeks later and was very happy with how it had helped her and gave her a feeling, that she could do something in the moment. So I think sometimes adults, we overthink and we overtry. We think things are a lot harder than they are simply because they're unfamiliar. So this kind of meditation is unfamiliar to many people. And so people might think, oh, it's difficult, but you just simply imagine it and do it, and it gets more and more powerful as you do that. So it's actually very simple.
Well, if it could be taught to a child, it should be very simple for the rest of us, right?
Yeah, if we can get our adult complicated mind out of the way, yes. Yeah. But then, as you know from reading it, I give all the steps really carefully and the reasons why the meditation proceeds in this way, why these steps are there, how it helps us. And, we can learn all of those steps gradually over time, and they each have their own profound benefit, not only in terms of the whole meditation, but singly, separately, they each have their own profound benefit for us in our meditation.
In your book, you also talk about the awakened nature of our shadow side, and I'd love for you to expand on that for our listeners.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that's a big subject. Well, first of all, as we feel our basic innate goodness more and more, and we're actually more in touch with that, and I give some ways for people to feel into that more, because again, this goes back to our lack of self-love, and we're more critical, and we're not usually feeling our basic goodness. So all beings have this, and it's actually a reflection of our innate awakened nature. And in Buddhism, it's said that we all actually are awakened beings, but we don't recognize that. We're ignorant of our situation. And because of that, we think we're separate from everything else, and we create duality. And then in our dualistic experience, we're always trying to get what we want and push away what we don't want. And we end up creating kind of shadow patterns around this. And the more we're able to actually feel our basic goodness, the more willing we are to look at our shadow and to face it and to work with it to transform and liberate it. And on the level of true nature, it already all is primordially pure, but we have to actualize that so that in a relative nature, we can really experience that fully and completely.
Well, there's something to be said that when we can look at our own shadow side and really face it and not cringe and love all of it, that we can come to
Right.
wholeness within ourselves.
Exactly. And again, back to do you beat a child to get them to change, or do you lovingly teach them? And I think, again, that's when we can face our shadow and take responsibility. We can love even those parts of ourselves. Those parts of ourselves are always trying to find happiness. It just might not be in a way that actually works. So it's producing suffering. And, those parts can also be loved and trained and incorporated in a certain sense. So we don't need to reject any part of ourself. It can all be transformed. It's all basically good. It just might be, some of our patterns and ways of going about things are misguided sometimes, or they're just habitual, but they're really not very wholesome. So we have this incredible opportunity as human beings to face our stuff and to work with it and allow it to transform and liberate.
That's so important.
And I really feel love. Yeah, love. Sorry. I was just going to say, I really feel love is the key for this transformation rather than punishment or criticism.
Well, when we put out love, we'll get more of that back. If we're putting out criticism as a way of transformation, we're probably going to have an interesting transformation.
I fully agree. Yeah, fully agree. I think when we put out more love, and Dalai Lama has commented on that he has a practice of a meditation he does all the time in daily life as well as in meditation, where he sends out loving kindness all ahead of himself to all the people he's going to encounter. And he said, he feels that he receives loving kindness back from that.
Mm-hmm. In your book, you also talk about cultivating an awakened mind. What does that mean, and how can we cultivate that?
So that's a term. It's actually a technical term in Sanskrit and Tibetan. And the Sanskrit word is bodhicitta. And it's interesting because it's not really what you'd think. But the definition of a cultivating awakening mind or awakened mind is to really feel that I want to alleviate not only my own suffering, I want to alleviate my own suffering and all beings' suffering. And I want to bring all of us out of this suffering into complete, permanent happiness and joy, peace, into, who we truly are, into full liberation and awakening. And this is called cultivating awakened mind, because awakened mind is love, is wisdom, and recognizes that we're all inseparable and that there isn't actually any separation between us. And so cultivating all of our good is way more powerful than just me trying to do one, trying to cultivate good for myself or just for 3 people or something. So it empowers our spiritual path and activates the awakened consciousness that's already inside of us. It links us up with that.
Well, and it's interesting how we treat other people, including ourselves, when we have this level of awareness that we're all connected, we're all part of one great source. It's interesting, when we look at it from that perspective, there really isn't any separation.
Yes. And there also, we can, from this point of view, the Christians would say we're all God's children. Like, we can honor the equality of each of us, that we're all equal and that we all have that divine presence or awakened nature inside. And of course, some people are very confused and are totally out of touch with that. And even those people we can have compassion for, given how confused and ignorant and, they are. But we can honor, our equality and the beauty of how there's just all these unique beings that we're unique and yet we're inseparable. It's incredible. It's a mystery and it's an amazing situation.
I was told a long time ago, we don't blame the sleeper, so it's people are all on their journey where they're supposed to be. And whether we're awakened at one level or not doesn't make us better, but it gives us an awareness of a level of compassion to have for other people who may be starting their path or just, new on their journey.
Exactly. Yeah. And for people who are totally not wanting to go on their spiritual journey or not wanting to unfold. They're just stuck in destructiveness and power tripping and, all that kind of thing. That I totally agree that, they are, as far as they're doing the best they can, and it's confusion and ignorance. And, it doesn't make us better if we've learned certain things that they don't know yet, but it can, really help us to have compassion for them without condoning in any way their actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I've been there, and when I look back on my spiritual path, I kind of laugh at some of the faux pas that I made, and I think everyone kind of does that. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have done that better.
Right.
Too bad I didn't learn meditation earlier.
Right. Right. And I do that same thing, and I think, oh my gosh, but some of it's just our personality, and it's not anything really bad. It's just the quirks of our personality. And, but also I find it very humbling. Like when I see how slow I am to change, and I've had so much spiritual training and psychological training and really good conditions overall in my life, and I see, wow, I am so slow to change. It's so humbling. And it helps me understand others, that as human beings, we're slow learners. It's like we have to knock our head on the wall, 20 million times before we're like, oh, that hurts, like we've been killing each other for millions of years. Like this is a slow learning race, Mm-hmm. So I think it's very humbling. And at the same time, we have humans who are such inspiring examples to us of love and courage and all of this. And that part is so beautiful as well.
Well, and I think it's so encouraging for people to hear that even you have gone through tough times, on your spiritual path, because they look at it and going, well, gosh, Lama Palden has has been doing this for a long time, and wow, it's so amazing. It's going to be, I'll never get there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really not true. We're all have the same capacity, and yeah. And some of us are more or less developed in different ways. Some people are incredible musicians. Some people are really good at sports. Some people are great orators. We all have our own development where we're, better at certain things than others. And, it's a learning curve for all of us. And, at the same time, it goes back to the self-love, to appreciate ourselves, like just in our basic goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And have confidence that we can do whatever we set out to do. We might not have success, but we can engage and do the best we can. And that's all we can really do.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Lama Palden, we can talk for hours. I mean, I really
yes, we could.
Love on Every Breath.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners connect with you, learn about your books, and be part of your community?
Oh, thank you for asking. So lamapalden.org, LAMAPALDEN.org. And then I'm on Facebook as well. So Lama Palden Drolma, I think it is on Facebook. So people can connect like that and also leave their comments and stuff. And on my website, lamapalden.org, on the About page, there's a link to my Buddhist center that I started in the Bay Area. And there's classes and retreats and things available for people as well. And they can read more about the book. And of course, the book's available wherever books are sold.
Oh, yes. They can pick up Love on Every Breath just about everywhere. So Lama Palden, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you. All the best to you.
Well, Lama Palden, it's been such an honor to spend this time with you, and of course to talk about your new book, Love on Every Breath. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.